Royal Guard saves Prince William from a rogue convoy linked to Camilla's inner circle. The morning began like any other royal event, but something in the air felt slightly different, though almost impossible to notice unless someone was as experienced as Captain Rowan Hale. The sky was clear, a soft blue with gentle sunlight stretching across the palace courtyard as the royal motorcade prepared to leave. The national flags on each vehicle fluttered lightly in the breeze, while staff hurried around with clipboards and earpieces, confirming plans and rehearsing protocols. Everything appeared normal, yet Rowan sensed a quiet tension beneath the surface, the kind that made him scan every corner twice instead of once. It wasn't fear, just instinct. Prince Alistair, the young and well-liked member of the royal family, stepped out of the palace doors with his usual calm expression. He waved politely to the small group of photographers gathered behind the rope line. He always tried to greet people kindly, no matter how busy his schedule was. Today he was traveling to a charity event supporting youth education, something he cared deeply about, and he had been preparing a short speech for days. His cheerful energy made the staff smile as he moved through them, but Rowan kept his focus sharp. His job was to watch what others might miss. Rowan had served in the Royal Guard for more than a decade. He was known for his steady mind and strong attention to detail, which often helped him solve problems before they even had a chance to begin. As he checked every vehicle again, he noticed a small difference in the usual setup of the escort team. A new driver he didn't recognize was assigned to one of the rear cars. The man wore the correct uniform and carried the right identification, but Rowan still watched him closely. Sometimes danger didn't announce itself, sometimes it looked ordinary. The motorcade route had been checked twice earlier that morning. Everything looked clear then, but Rowan wasn't satisfied. He walked over to the communication vehicle and looked at the route map again, reviewing the turns, the traffic reports, and the security checkpoints. On paper, nothing was wrong. Still, a quiet feeling inside him said to stay more alert than usual. He didn't ignore such feelings. Over the years, they had guided him through many unusual situations, helping him protect important lives. Once the prince entered his main vehicle, Rowan signaled for the motorcade to start. His own car was positioned very close behind the prince's, giving him the best view and quickest access if needed. He adjusted his earpiece and listened carefully as his team repeated their check-ins. Everything sounded smooth and professional, yet Rowan's eyes continued to scan the environment as the convoy rolled out through the palace gates. Crowds lined the sidewalks outside the palace, excited to catch a glimpse of the prince. Children waved small flags, and tourists lifted their phones for photos. Prince Alistair smiled softly from inside his car, offering a polite wave. He enjoyed moments like this, simple interactions that made people feel included and seen. But Rowan kept his gaze moving. He watched faces, windows, parked vehicles, rooftop edges, even street signs. He didn't expect anything unusual to happen, but that didn't stop him from preparing for the unexpected. As the motorcade approached the busier streets of the city, Rowan began to notice subtle changes in the traffic patterns. Cars on the opposite side of the road were moving a bit too slowly, and a delivery van ahead seemed to hesitate at a green light. None of it was alarming, but it was enough to catch his attention. He radioed the lead escort to ask for an update on traffic control. The reply came promptly. Everything was normal. Yet Rowan continued to feel that strangely quiet tension lingering in the air, something he couldn't fully explain. Inside the prince's car, Alistair reviewed his note cards for the charity speech. He occasionally glanced out the window, observing the people who waved to him with friendly smiles. His driver, an experienced member of the team, remained focused on the road. Everything inside the prince's vehicle felt peaceful, almost ordinary. But Rowan watched from behind, his eyes narrowing slightly each time he noticed a vehicle that didn't match earlier reports. He had memorized the license plates of every approved car in the surrounding streets. It was part of his routine. Today, however, he spotted two vehicles he couldn't place from prior checks. One was a dark sedan following at a distance. The other was an unfamiliar SUV parked just beyond a construction area the motorcade would soon pass. Neither vehicle behaved in a troubling way, but they did not match his list. Rowan took a slow breath and reminded himself to observe carefully before making any assumptions. The city grew busier the farther they traveled. People crossed streets carrying shopping bags or chatting with friends. Street performers played cheerful melodies on corners, and colorful banners for a local festival hung across the road. Everything looked so lively and normal that Rowan wondered if he was simply being overly cautious. Even so, he would not let his guard drop. The prince's safety meant too much. As the convoy turned onto a narrower street, Rowan's instincts sharpened again. The buildings here were taller, creating small pockets of shadow. A few windows were open, curtains drifting in the breeze. A cyclist rode past the convoy, glancing at the prince's car a bit too long before pedaling away. Small details, but details that Rowan noticed. He checked the message board on his dashboard, which displayed updates from the command center. Everything still read clear. He switched to another channel for a quick test, just to ensure communication was stable. The sound crackled slightly, then cleared. It wasn't enough to raise an alarm, but it made him adjust the receiver on his earpiece and try again. Another soft crackle answered him. Strange, he thought. Communication on this route was usually smooth. The suspicious feeling in his mind grew a little stronger. Meanwhile, the staff back at the palace monitored every step of the motorcade through live feeds and radio channels. They saw nothing unusual either, though one analyst did note a small shift in traffic movement. He prepared a message to alert the team, but before he could send it, his screen momentarily froze. Technical issues happened occasionally, but the timing made him uneasy. He refreshed the system, hoping it was nothing more than a minor glitch. Back on the road, the previously parked SUV near the construction site now had two people standing beside it, looking down at a tablet device. Rowan's car passed them slowly, but he tilted his head slightly, trying to capture every detail. They wore casual clothing and seemed to be reviewing something, maybe directions or maps. Still, Rowan made a mental note and planned to review camera footage later. Just as the convoy moved further down the narrow street, Rowan noticed one more detail. A vehicle far ahead that seemed to be moving in and out of the lane in an uncertain way. It wasn't close enough to be a concern yet, but it added to the list of unusual things he had observed that morning. Rowan quietly adjusted his position in his seat, ready to react quickly if necessary. Inside the prince's car, Alistair sensed something too, not danger but a change in Rowan's posture through the rear-view mirror. He knew Rowan well enough to recognize the signs. The prince didn't ask any questions. He trusted Rowan completely. Instead, he gently set down his note cards and folded his hands, giving Rowan his full attention from a distance. When Rowan appeared alert, it was wise to be alert as well. The lead escort car announced a small route change due to temporary road maintenance, something the team had been informed about earlier but hadn't expected to actually encounter today. It was a simple detour, nothing out of the ordinary, yet Rowan felt the unfamiliar weight of caution rest deeper on his shoulders. None of this was alarming by itself, but together, the pieces formed a pattern too subtle for anyone but him to notice. He glanced one more time at the unfamiliar sedan behind them. It kept a respectful distance, never getting too close. Still, it had followed them through 3 turns now. Rowan lifted his radio and checked for any new updates. Again, a soft crackle answered before the channel cleared. He didn't like that sound. Communication was the backbone of safety, and even a small glitch could become a problem. The motorcade approached an intersection where the traffic lights had recently been updated with new timing settings. Rowan had reviewed the schedule for the lights that morning, yet the green light remained on a little longer than expected. His eyes flicked toward the signals, then back to the surrounding cars. Everything flowed smoothly, but the longer green light puzzled him. It wasn't a threat, of course, but it was another detail that didn't match his earlier review. The convoy continued on, but Rowan's attention never wavered. His instincts kept whispering that something on this route was different, something not clearly visible but present in the small details scattered along the way. The city felt a little too quiet in certain areas, too busy in others, as if the natural rhythm of the streets had been gently rearranged. By the time they approached the next major turn, Rowan was fully alert. Nothing dangerous had happened, yet every small sign pointed toward something unusual developing. He didn't know what it was, not yet, but he trusted his experience. His job wasn't only to respond to problems, it was to sense them before they happened. And on this quiet morning, with sunshine gliding across the polished cars of the royal convoy, Rowan Hale knew one thing with complete certainty. This would not be a routine day. The motorcade moved deeper into the city, and the buildings around them grew taller, creating long shapes of shade across the road. Captain Rowan Hale kept his attention fixed on the convoy, the sidewalks, and the flow of traffic. The small details that had bothered him earlier stayed in his mind, forming a quiet pattern he could not ignore. His instincts kept telling him to watch more closely, even though everything still appeared peaceful on the surface. Up ahead, the lead escort vehicle reported clear roads and cooperative drivers. Everything seemed ordinary. Cars slowed respectfully as the convoy passed, and pedestrians waved with cheerful excitement. But Rowan's eyes never stayed in one place for long. They moved constantly: windows, balconies, parked bicycles, street corners, unexpected reflections in glass. He studied all of it carefully. As they entered a long stretch of road lined with shops, Rowan noticed a dark-colored SUV a short distance behind the convoy. It had joined the main traffic only moments earlier. The driver kept a steady distance, but didn't look around like a typical person stuck behind a royal procession. He stared forward, unmoving, as if waiting for something. Rowan watched him through the side mirror, his mind quietly marking the vehicle's details. He didn't feel alarmed, just aware. Inside the prince's car, Prince Alistair had put away his note cards completely. He now sat with a thoughtful expression, glancing out the window at the busy marketplace they were passing. Children held balloons, vendors arranged fruits in colorful baskets, shop owners stood outside their stores greeting customers. It was a warm and lively scene, the kind that reminded Alistair why he loved public engagements. People seemed happy to see him. But even with those joyful moments, he sensed Rowan's tension behind them. Rowan had never been the type to show worry easily, so when he focused this intensely, it meant something subtle was unfolding. As the convoy continued, a traffic officer standing near an intersection made a hand signal that looked slightly different from the usual gesture. It was almost as if he hesitated before giving the direction. The lead driver slowed a little, unsure, but then followed the signal. Rowan narrowed his eyes. He checked the officer's uniform, everything looked proper. Still, something felt slightly off, perhaps in the timing or the officer's uncertain movement. Rowan radioed the command center to confirm that an official officer was assigned to that post. The reply came back after a short delay, a delay that was not normal. "Confirming now," the voice finally answered. Rowan tapped the steering wheel gently, not out of frustration but thoughtfulness. Things were adding up in small, quiet ways, not dangerous but unusual. Moments later, as the convoy turned onto a different road, Rowan noticed another unfamiliar vehicle, a silver sedan merging into traffic ahead of them. It traveled slowly at first, then sped up slightly before settling into a normal pace. The driver kept glancing at the rear mirror, as if trying to see the convoy without turning his head. Rowan made a mental note again, his instincts tightening. He didn't want to cause worry among the team, so he kept his observations calm and steady. But he didn't let any details slip away. The convoy moved through an area under light construction. Bright cones stood in neat rows, and workers wearing helmets guided cars carefully. One worker held a tablet and looked up at the convoy as it passed, studying each vehicle one by one. Rowan watched him closely but couldn't identify anything wrong. The worker smiled politely and stepped aside. Maybe he was simply curious, Rowan thought. People often stared at royal convoys. Still, the worker's focus seemed sharper than simple curiosity. As they drove past the construction area, Rowan noticed something else, an SUV parked just behind the cones. It had no construction markings, but the windows were tinted. Rowan looked at it for as long as he could before the convoy moved out of view. He kept replaying the image in his mind. It didn't break any rules, it wasn't blocking anything. Yet its placement felt slightly unusual. Inside the communication van at the back of the convoy, a technician monitored signals. He frowned when he saw a minor fluctuation in the network. A soft crackle passed through his headset, almost matching the one Rowan had heard earlier. The technician checked the system, expecting to find a loose wire or weak signal zone. Everything looked fine. He made a note in the logbook, unsure if it was important but knowing that even small technical interruptions mattered. Meanwhile, a gentle breeze moved through the open streets as the convoy reached another intersection. The traffic light turned yellow just as the convoy approached, but instead of turning red, It stayed yellow longer than usual. Rowan checked the light timing chart he had reviewed earlier that morning. The timing wasn't matching. Could it be an update, a glitch, or something else? Nothing looked dangerous, and yet everything felt slightly adjusted. Rowan's fingers moved to his radio again. He asked each escort member to report small changes in road conditions. Most replied with nothing unusual. But one rider on a motorcycle mentioned that two vehicles behind them seemed to be switching lanes more often than normal, not getting close but staying in view. Rowan's attention sharpened even more. He looked behind again. The dark SUV he had noticed earlier was still there, and the silver sedan he saw ahead had now slowed down, allowing the convoy to come closer. Not alarmingly close, but close enough to be noticed. Prince Alistair, sensing something developing, leaned a little forward in his seat. He understood enough about security to know when his team was paying extra attention. Though he trusted them completely, he stayed calm and prepared. His eyes followed the buildings passing outside, but his mind stayed connected to Rowan's posture and alert gaze. The lead escort driver announced that they were approaching a narrower street with very limited turning space. Rowan knew this part of the city well. The next stretch would require slower speed and tight formation. He reminded his team to maintain distance and stay synchronized. As they entered the narrower street, Rowan noticed that the crowd was thinner here. Fewer shops, fewer people, more quiet corners. The rhythm of the convoy changed slightly. The hum of the engines echoed softly between the buildings. Rowan's senses grew even sharper. He checked the side windows of nearby buildings. A curtain moved gently in one apartment, though no breeze reached that high. A balcony had two people standing close together, looking down at the convoy with thoughtful expressions. A parked delivery scooter remained strangely still, its owner nowhere in sight. These details didn't signal danger, but they changed the atmosphere around them. Communication crackled again, softer this time but still noticeable. Rowan pressed his earpiece to hear more clearly. The voice from the command center sounded distant for a moment, then returned to normal. This confirmed Rowan's suspicion. There was subtle interference along the route. The convoy slowed slightly due to the narrow road. The silver sedan moved ahead, then shifted to the side as if preparing to park. The dark SUV behind remained at a respectful distance. No one broke any rules, but Rowan saw a pattern forming between them, one ahead, one behind, both unusual, both steady. His instinct whispered louder now. Even the weather seemed to quiet down, the breeze slowed, and the sunlight dimmed slightly behind a passing cloud. The city noise grew softer in this narrow lane, making every small sound more noticeable. Prince Alistair looked out calmly, but Rowan could sense the prince's awareness. Though the prince never interfered with security operations, he always stayed attentive when Rowan appeared focused. The convoy neared the end of the narrow street. Ahead lay a wider road where the motorcade could spread out again. But before they reached it, Rowan spotted something at the intersection. A convoy of 3 black vehicles turning slowly from the connecting street. They were not part of the schedule. They were standard vehicles, not official ones, and they moved in a calm, controlled way. But their timing matched the convoy's arrival almost too precisely. Each car made a smooth turn, drifting toward the wide road at the exact moment the royal convoy approached. Rowan's breath steadied, but his focus grew razor-sharp. He checked the license plates, none matched the authorized list. He checked the spacing, each vehicle kept a perfect balance between them. He checked their speed, slow, steady, deliberate. Nothing they were doing was wrong, but everything they were doing was unusual. For a moment the world seemed to pause in a delicate balance. Cars moved in gentle patterns. Sunlight reflected on glass windows. The road ahead opened wide and bright. But Rowan felt it unmistakably now. Something had shifted. Something was about to unfold. And the quiet tension he had sensed all morning settled firmly into place, ready to reveal its purpose. The moment the 3 unfamiliar black vehicles appeared at the intersection, Rowan Hale felt a clear shift inside himself. It wasn't fear, it was a calm alertness, the kind that settled deep and steady, preparing him to make the right decisions. The vehicles moved smoothly, almost too smoothly, and their timing aligned so precisely with the royal convoy that Rowan knew this was no coincidence. He kept his expression neutral, though his mind began connecting every small detail from earlier that morning. Still, there was no reason to raise an alarm yet. Nothing openly wrong had happened. The vehicles were simply present, moving along the road like any other. But Rowan had learned long ago that the greatest challenges often arrived quietly, without loud signs or obvious warnings. Inside the prince's car, Prince Alistair sat upright now, paying closer attention to their surroundings. He didn't want to distract Rowan or the team, so he stayed silent, relying completely on their judgment. His calmness helped maintain the peaceful atmosphere inside the vehicle, even though he sensed something unusual unfolding. As the motorcade approached the wider road, the three unfamiliar vehicles completed their turn, then adjusted their positions in a way that seemed almost intentional. One of them drifted slightly to the left lane, another stayed centered, and the third kept to the right. Together, they created a loose pattern, not blocking the road but shaping the path ahead. Rowan noticed this immediately. He checked the mirrors again. The dark SUV behind them was still there, and the silver sedan ahead had just slowed down near a parking spot. The combination of these placements, one ahead, one behind, and three approaching from the side, made Rowan's instincts sharpen even further. He gently pressed the button on his radio. "All units, increase spacing. Maintain awareness," he said in a calm, low tone. Every escort member understood the meaning behind those words. It wasn't an emergency signal, but it was a quiet request for readiness. The convoy shifted slightly, creating a more secure formation around the prince's car. No one panicked. No one asked questions. They trusted Rowan's judgment completely. The road widened, and sunlight brightened everything around them. The city felt open here, with shops, businesses, and people going about their day. A group of pedestrians waited at a crosswalk, taking pictures of the convoy. A few taxis honked lightly in the distance. Everything looked peaceful, yet Rowan sensed a thin layer of uncertainty running just beneath the surface. The silver sedan that had been slowing earlier suddenly pulled into an empty parking spot, finally moving out of the way. Rowan noted the change, but did not relax. The dark SUV behind remained steady. The three black vehicles ahead began adjusting their positions again, almost as if they were trying to blend naturally into the traffic while still keeping a certain formation. Rowan's fingers rested near the radio again. He didn't speak yet. He simply listened to the soft static, testing the connection. He hoped for a clear signal. Instead, there was a faint crackle. It wasn't loud. It wasn't disruptive. But it was enough to confirm that something was affecting communication, and timing mattered. Clear signals were essential during moments like these. Rowan took a slow breath and kept driving, staying close behind the prince's vehicle. His mind worked through possibilities, not jumping to conclusions but preparing for different outcomes. He reviewed the mental map of the city, the alternate routes, the open spaces, and the safe zones. Planning ahead was his strength, and he used it now. The convoy reached a point where the road split into two directions. The left road led toward a busier commercial area, while the right road led to a quieter district with fewer people and more open space. According to the original plan, they were meant to go left. But Rowan's attention suddenly fixed on the three black vehicles. They were also preparing to turn left. Rowan didn't like that. It could easily be coincidence, but considering everything else he had seen today, the unusual timing, the communication interference, the unfamiliar vehicles, he decided not to ignore his instincts. He spoke into the radio again, softly. "Lead vehicle, hold speed. Await reroute instruction." His voice remained calm and controlled. The team responded immediately with an acknowledgement. Prince Alistair watched Rowan's car from the rear-view mirror. He could tell Rowan was preparing for a possible adjustment. The prince trusted him deeply. Rowan had kept him safe many times before, and he had complete confidence in his quiet leadership. As the convoy neared the turn, Rowan spotted a delivery truck parked near the left road. Two people stood beside it, looking down at a clipboard. They seemed harmless, just workers checking items. But Rowan had learned not to make decisions based on surface impressions alone. He considered the right road, quieter, less crowded, easier to manage. It offered more control and fewer uncertain factors. Rowan pressed the radio button again. "Lead vehicle, new direction, take the right road. All units follow." The escort team smoothly shifted the convoy toward the right, their movements seamless and practiced. The sudden change caused a few nearby drivers to pause, but the convoy carried on effortlessly, maintaining formation. Rowan kept an eye on the three black vehicles. When the convoy turned right, the unfamiliar cars continued straight for a moment. Then one of them slowed down, almost as if reconsidering its path. Rowan watched closely. After a moment of hesitation, the vehicle continued left, following its original direction. But then something else drew Rowan's attention. Another car, this time a dark gray one, appeared at the far end of the right road, emerging from a side street. It didn't rush toward them, but the timing again felt unusual. The road ahead was open and peaceful. A cafe sat on the corner with people chatting outside. A cyclist rode past, listening to music. Everything looked normal, but Rowan could not ignore the quiet pattern that had been forming since morning. The convoy entered the right road in a smooth line. Rowan checked every mirror, then glanced at the prince's vehicle again. Alistair's posture remained calm, yet his eyes showed understanding. He knew something subtle was happening, though he didn't know exactly what. Rowan adjusted his speed, staying close enough to protect but far enough to have room for maneuvering. His mind replayed each odd detail from the morning. The unfamiliar driver, the unusual timing of the traffic lights, the worker who stared too long, the tablet, the slow silver sedan, the dark SUV, the formation of the black vehicles. None of it was dangerous by itself. But together it created a story that he could not ignore, a story of small changes, subtle signals, and quiet coordination. He guided the convoy deeper into the right road, where traffic was lighter. His instincts told him they had made the correct decision, though he still felt the need to stay sharp. The dark gray car ahead slowed down, allowing the convoy to pass. The driver waved politely and pulled off to the side, another detail that seemed too perfectly timed. Rowan watched him out of the corner of his eye. The driver smiled and checked his phone, looking like any ordinary person, but Rowan had learned that appearances could not always be trusted. Communication crackled again just for a moment. Rowan tried switching channels. The sound improved slightly, but the interference was still there, a soft interruption like a whisper in the background. It wasn't harmful, but it was consistent. As the convoy continued forward, Rowan noticed another change. The dark SUV behind them had not turned left. It had followed them onto the right road, and it was now closer than before, not dangerously close, just close enough to make Rowan focus on it even more. He pressed his radio lightly. "Rear detail, monitor the dark SUV at 8 o'clock, the rear escort confirmed. The SUV maintained a steady distance, never rushing, never slowing. Its behavior remained calm and controlled, but its persistence deepened Rowan's curiosity. Rowan shifted slightly, allowing his car to adjust formation. The other escort cars followed his cue, creating a tighter yet still natural structure around the prince. He did not want to cause any concern for the public or the prince. His goal was smoothness, quiet decisions, calm adjustments. As they neared the end of the quieter street, Rowan noticed an open roundabout ahead. It was large, with several exit points and plenty of visibility. A perfect place to regain control of the formation and prepare for the next decisions. But just before the roundabout, Rowan saw something else. A second unfamiliar vehicle turning onto the road from a small side street. It matched the color of the SUV behind them, though it was not the same car. It slowed gently as the convoy approached, falling into a natural rhythm with the rest of the traffic. Yet again, the timing was too precise to ignore. Rowan's instincts spoke with full clarity now. He pressed the radio button and said softly, "All units prepare for protective spacing. Maintain steady posture." The escort team responded immediately. Their cars adjusted slightly, still subtle enough not to alarm anyone watching. Rowan's heartbeat stayed slow and controlled. His mind remained steady. He had been trained for moments like these, not dramatic emergencies, but quiet situations requiring careful thinking, calm decisions, and confident leadership. He examined the open roundabout ahead. The sunlight shone brightly on it, making every vehicle clearly visible. It offered space, clarity, and time to act, and time was exactly what Rowan needed to understand the next steps. Nothing dangerous had happened yet. But the arrangement of vehicles, the timing, the signals, and the persistent interference told Rowan that something unusual was certainly unfolding. And he knew he would have to act with precision, calmness, and confidence to guide the convoy through whatever came next. The wide roundabout ahead looked peaceful at first glance, almost too peaceful. Sunlight touched its center garden, where soft green plants swayed gently in the breeze. Cars moved in neat, predictable circles, following the lanes with patience. It was the kind of place where everything normally flowed smoothly without stress or disorder. Yet for Rowan Hale, the calm appearance only made the unusual pattern behind it stand out more clearly. He understood the roundabout could become a turning point, not because anything dramatic would happen, but because it was a place where decisions mattered. There were multiple exits, open space, and full visibility. It offered choices, and choices were powerful during uncertain moments. Rowan felt a quiet sense of responsibility as his mind mapped out those possibilities one by one. The royal convoy approached steadily, maintaining the careful formation he had guided them into. The prince's car in the center moved with gentle patience, as if trusting the entire world to cooperate. Prince Alistair sat with his hands folded, taking slow breaths, staying composed. He believed so deeply in harmony that even moments of tension could not unsettle him. But Rowan knew that calm must be supported by thoughtful action. He checked the mirrors again. The dark SUV behind them was still there, following with the same steady posture as before. It never rushed, never slowed too much, and never drifted away. The vehicle simply held its place with quiet persistence. And now another car, the one that had turned from the side street, was ahead, gently merging into the circle road. Rowan's instincts grew fully alert but stayed gentle. His job was not to create worry, it was to create balance. As they entered the roundabout, the light reflected gently on the windows of surrounding buildings. People walking nearby paused to admire the royal convoy. Some lifted their phones for photos. Others smiled and waved as the prince passed. Prince Alistair responded with his usual grace, offering a small nod that made the onlookers cheer softly. Rowan watched everything. He noticed the way a pedestrian stopped on the sidewalk a little longer than expected, as if trying to understand the movement of vehicles. He noticed how a cyclist slowed near the circle's edge, not out of caution but curiosity. He noticed a car parked slightly tilted toward the exit lane, though there were proper parking lines nearby. Small details, ordinary details, but not forgettable. Rowan spoke into his radio softly, "Stay steady, follow my signal." The dark SUV behind them slowed slightly, allowing more room between cars. The gray sedan ahead drifted gently to the right, creating space but still moving along the circle. Another black car from earlier had appeared at one of the far exits, moving toward the roundabout at a slow, measured pace. It was not blocking anything. It was not approaching with urgency. But its timing once again matched the convoy's arrival. Rowan's mind processed these patterns like pieces of a large puzzle. He stayed completely calm. The lead escort car began guiding the convoy through the circle, heading toward the second exit. According to the adjusted route, this path would take them into a wider area with better visibility. Rowan watched each movement carefully. He did not want any sudden changes, only smooth transitions, gentle adjustments, and dependable decisions. Suddenly, the communication line flickered again. A soft crackle entered Rowan's earpiece, not sharp, not alarming, but steady enough to catch his attention. He tested another channel. The interference followed. He tested a third, same result. The pattern made him certain now. Someone nearby was using technology that disrupted the signal slightly. Not harmful, but distracting. Rowan pressed his radio gently. Maintain visual communication if audio becomes unclear. His team immediately prepared to rely on hand signals and coordinated spacing if needed. The convoy continued through the roundabout. The unfamiliar gray sedan ahead suddenly took an exit, leaving the circle with a smooth turn. This eased Rowan for a moment. But only for a moment, because another unfamiliar vehicle, a dark blue one this time, entered the circle from the opposite side just as they approached the midpoint. It blended into the flow naturally. The driver appeared relaxed. Nothing about the car suggested a problem. Yet the timing once again lined up too perfectly. Rowan shifted slightly in his seat, grounding his thoughts. He had to decide whether to keep the convoy on the planned path or guide them to an alternate exit. Both options were available. Both were safe in theory. But instinct guided him toward one direction. He pressed his radio again. Lead vehicle, continue to third exit, slow pace. By slowing the pace, the convoy would gain more time to observe, adjust, and move safely. Rowan preferred open choices, not forced ones. The prince watched the roundabout calmly, noticing how Rowan's car remained perfectly aligned behind him. Rowan's confidence brought him comfort. The prince trusted the team so deeply that even the subtle changes of direction did not bother him. As they approached the third exit, Rowan noticed the dark blue car adjusting its position, shifting closer to the inside lane as if observing the convoy. The movement was slow, completely allowed by traffic rules, yet unusually timed. Rowan decided to take no chances. He pressed the radio calmly. All units create buffer formation. It looked like a perfectly natural adjustment, but Rowan knew the team was now fully prepared. The convoy took the third exit. The road ahead was broader than the previous one, with long sidewalks, decorative lamp posts, and wide lanes that made traffic flow comfortable. People walked with shopping bags. A street musician played a soft tune under a shade tree. Everything felt open and bright. Rowan observed each detail with fresh focus. The dark blue car did not follow them out of the roundabout. That was good. But the dark SUV behind them did follow and remained in the same lane. Rowan didn't allow this to unsettle him. Instead, it confirmed that his caution earlier had been justified. He wasn't dealing with a sudden surprise. He was dealing with a gentle pattern unfolding in quiet ways. The convoy drove along the broad road with steady confidence. Rowan monitored every vehicle around them. A taxi slowed gracefully to give space. A bus waited patiently at the stop sign. A family crossing the street waved happily at the convoy. It was a peaceful moment on the surface. But Rowan noticed something else. A white car approaching from the opposite lane slowed slightly as the convoy passed. The driver looked toward the motorcade a bit too long. Then the car moved on. Small detail. Another pattern note. Rowan's mind worked like a calm river, moving steadily through possibilities. He decided that they needed a safe place to pause, not because something was wrong, but because clarity mattered. A planned stop would allow the team to assess their surroundings, double-check the signal interference, and let the convoy regroup with smoother communication. Up ahead, Rowan saw an open area near a public park. The space was wide, easy to manage, and filled with families enjoying the day, an environment where everything felt natural and open. He pressed the radio once more. Lead vehicle, reduce speed. Prepare for controlled stop ahead. The lead escort acknowledged immediately. Prince Alistair, noticing the change in pace, sat even straighter. Though he remained calm, he silently prepared himself for whatever Rowan needed to do. The convoy slowed gradually, giving the dark SUV behind them a chance to adjust. The SUV did slow down, but its driver seemed to hesitate for a brief moment before matching the convoy's pace. Rowan took note of it but stayed silent. The important thing was that the SUV remained at a comfortable distance. The convoy reached the open park area and began to line up smoothly near a quiet curb. Families nearby watched with polite interest but did not approach, understanding that official business might be taking place. Children with ice cream cones pointed and smiled, excited to see the famous vehicles. Rowan parked his car and stepped out calmly. His movements were slow, deliberate, and peaceful. He did not want anyone nearby to feel alarmed or concerned. His team also stepped out with quiet professionalism, forming a natural perimeter without making it look like a barrier. Rowan took a moment to breathe the open air. The sunlight felt warm, the breeze was refreshing, everything around them looked ordinary and gentle. Yet he knew that wisdom meant acting early, not late. He looked toward the prince's car. Alistair met his eyes through the window. Rowan gave the smallest nod, nothing alarming, just reassuring. Alistair returned the gesture with a calm, steady look. Rowan stepped back into his car and checked the communication system. The interference was still present, though lighter now in this open space. He tested channels again and finally found one that seemed clearer. He used this brief moment of clarity to send a message to the command center, requesting a quiet analysis of surrounding signals. His team waited calmly, trusting his leadership. Rowan breathed slowly, letting his thoughts settle. He replayed every detail from the morning: the small signs, the unusual timings, the subtle patterns in traffic, the technology interference, the presence of multiple unfamiliar vehicles. Nothing had crossed into danger, yet everything pointed toward something coordinated and unclear. In that moment, Rowan understood something important. The day was not presenting a problem. The day was presenting a puzzle. And his job was to guide everyone through it with grace, calmness, and wisdom. The convoy remained at rest for only a few minutes, but those few minutes gave Rowan all the clarity he needed for the next step. He knew how to lead them forward now with more awareness, smoother communication, and complete trust in the quiet signals guiding him. He pressed the radio again, softly. "Prepare to move. Stay in formation. We proceed with calm." And the team understood instantly. Rowan Hale had a plan. The convoy began to move again with a gentle, steady flow, leaving the peaceful park area behind. The brief pause had helped everyone breathe, reset, and regain clarity. Captain Rowan Hale felt a new sense of focus as he guided his vehicle back into formation behind the prince's car. The sunlight now rested warmly on the rooftops, and the breeze carried a soft, refreshing scent from the park trees. Everything looked calm, but Rowan's mind stayed alert as he prepared for the final stretch of the journey. Prince Alistair glanced out of the window with a thoughtful expression. He had noticed the short stop and the team's quiet coordination, but he did not feel worried. Instead, he felt grateful. He trusted Rowan more than almost anyone. Whenever Rowan made decisions, no matter how subtle, Alistair knew there was a reason, one rooted in experience, wisdom, and instinct. That trust helped him remain calm even during uncertain moments. The convoy entered a broader avenue lined with clean pavements, colorful storefronts, and a gentle flow of midday walkers. The air felt peaceful here, with soft chatter, light music drifting from a cafe, and the occasional ringing of a bicycle bell. The whole street carried an easy rhythm that made everything feel pleasantly ordinary again. Yet Rowan stayed alert, watching the vehicles around them. The dark SUV that had followed earlier remained behind, but now with a little more distance. Its behavior seemed more relaxed, almost as if the driver realized the convoy was aware of their presence and decided to keep a respectful space. This change eased Rowan slightly, but he did not let his guard down completely. As they continued forward, Rowan noticed a small group of people gathered near a fountain ahead. They were holding balloons and colorful signs, clearly waiting to see the prince pass by. Their cheerful energy made the moment feel lighter. Children jumped excitedly, parents adjusted cameras, and teenagers whispered about who might be in which vehicle. Prince Alistair smiled warmly at their enthusiasm, lifting his hand to wave through the window. The crowd responded with a gentle cheer. Some clapped softly, while others took pictures and waved back with bright smiles. For a few moments, the entire world seemed full of good intentions, positivity, and simple joy. Even Rowan felt a pleasant softness in his chest as he watched how genuinely happy the crowd was to see their prince. But he also noticed something else, a car parked near the fountain with its driver inside. The driver leaned forward slightly, watching the convoy with a focused expression. Nothing was wrong with observing, but the intensity of the gaze caught Rowan's attention. He watched carefully as they passed, but the driver simply nodded politely, started the engine, and drove away in the opposite direction. Another harmless detail, but Rowan logged it mentally as part of the day's pattern. The convoy continued moving in smooth harmony. The escort cars kept perfect spacing, the communication signals remained clearer after the earlier adjustment, and the team stayed attentive yet calm. Rowan felt the air shifting now, not with tension, but with a slow sense of relief, like a gentle curtain being lifted after a long morning of careful observation. The charity event venue was not far now. It was a large community center with wide lawns, open gates, and friendly banners hanging across the entrance. People were already gathering outside, holding programs and chatting excitedly. Staff members moved around with clipboards, arranging seating and guiding attendees. It was the kind of place that always welcomed positivity and warmth. Rowan scanned the area from a distance. Everything looked organized and peaceful. The entrance was wide and unobstructed, the paths were clear, and security staff at the venue stood ready to greet the convoy. The open layout made Rowan feel more comfortable. Wide spaces meant more visibility, fewer hidden corners, and better control. As the convoy approached, Rowan signaled the escort team to adjust to the final formation. Their movements were smooth, almost elegant, like performers who knew their roles perfectly. Each car took its place, gradually slowing until they reached the designated stopping point near the main entrance. Prince Alistair reached for the door handle, but paused when he saw Rowan step out of his vehicle. The prince knew Rowan always performed one last check before allowing him to exit. It was a routine they had followed many times, and Alistair respected it completely. Rowan walked calmly around the prince's car, his eyes soft but focused. He checked the sidewalks, the entrance, the gathering crowds, the nearby vehicles, and even the distant corners of the open lawn. Everything appeared peaceful. The people at the gate waved warmly. Children held up signs with encouraging messages about education and hope, and the staff members wore bright smiles as they prepared to welcome the prince. Finally feeling satisfied, Rowan gave a small nod to the prince's driver. Prince Alistair stepped out gracefully. The crowd applauded softly, welcoming him with warmth and admiration. The prince smiled at them, his presence gentle and sincere. Cameras clicked quietly. Staff members greeted him respectfully. Volunteers offered program booklets and guided him toward the stage area. Through it all, Rowan stayed close, walking only a short distance behind him. He kept his posture relaxed yet attentive, blending into the background while watching everything with a protective gaze. His presence was steady and reassuring, like a quiet anchor in a constantly moving world. As the prince made his way through the entrance, a young boy holding a handmade sign stepped forward shyly. His mother gently encouraged him. Prince Alistair noticed and crouched down to greet him warmly. The boy handed him the sign, which read, "Thank you for helping kids learn." The prince's smile widened with genuine kindness as he complimented the boy's handwriting. The crowd watched with soft admiration. Moments like this reminded everyone why the prince was so beloved, his ability to connect with people, especially children, with sincerity and respect. Rowan observed the interaction quietly. His heart softened at the sight of the boy's excitement. It was moments like these that made the long hours, the responsibility, and the constant awareness worthwhile. Protecting someone who brought so much positivity to the world made Rowan's job feel meaningful in ways he rarely expressed out loud. After greeting several guests, Prince Alistair moved toward the speaking area. Staff members guided him gently to the podium where he would deliver his prepared speech. The audience settled into their seats, conversations quieting down as they waited for the event to begin. A soft breeze moved across the lawns, rustling the pages of program booklets. Rowan stood to the side, watching everything closely but comfortably. He checked the positions of his team members, confirming they had taken their places around the venue. Each one gave him subtle visual cues, showing they were all set. Nothing appeared out of place now. The unusual vehicles from earlier had not reappeared, and the earlier patterns of uncertainty seemed to have dissolved into the normal flow of the day. Prince Alistair's speech began with gentle, thoughtful words. He spoke about the importance of education, the potential of young minds, and the responsibility of supporting children's dreams. His voice carried warmth and encouragement, touching the hearts of everyone listening. The audience nodded, smiled, and even wiped away emotional tears as he spoke. Rowan watched the crowd. Their expressions were genuine, full of appreciation. The atmosphere was peaceful and inspiring. The morning's concerns felt far away now, fading like a cloud drifting out of sight. When the speech ended, the crowd applauded warmly. Prince Alistair thanked them with a humble bow of the head. He then stepped down from the stage to greet more attendees, shaking hands and exchanging kind words. He met teachers, students, parents, volunteers, and community leaders. Every person he spoke to left with a brighter expression than before. Rowan continued scanning the area, though his shoulders now relaxed slightly. He could see the happiness in the crowd, hear the gentle laughter, and feel the soft ease spreading across the venue. He realized that the careful decisions made earlier had guided them to this peaceful moment. The day had been unusual, yes, but it had also been successful. After the event concluded, Prince Alistair made his way back to the convoy. Rowan walked beside him, maintaining a respectful distance. The prince paused before entering his vehicle and turned to Rowan with a quiet, genuine expression. "Thank you," he said softly, only loud enough for Rowan to hear. Rowan bowed his head slightly. "Always, sir." The prince smiled with appreciation and entered the car. As the convoy prepared to leave the venue, Rowan took one final look around. The sunlight was gentle. The breeze was calm. The community members waved happily as the vehicles rolled away. Everything felt settled now, peaceful, steady, and complete. Driving behind the prince once more, Rowan reflected on the day. There had been unusual signs, quiet patterns, and small uncertainties. But through patience, calm decisions, and steady awareness, the convoy had reached its destination safely. No conflict had occurred. No harm had come to anyone, The journey had simply been a test of instinct, observation, and gentle leadership. And Rowan felt quietly proud, not for himself, but for the entire team, for the prince's trust, and for the harmony that had been preserved throughout the day. The city passed by softly as the convoy made its way back to the palace. People continued their daily routines. Birds fluttered between trees. Cars moved along the roads with ordinary rhythm. Life returned fully to its gentle pace. And Rowan Hale, with calm eyes and a steady heart, guided the convoy home, carrying with him the silent satisfaction of a job done with care, wisdom, and quiet success.